Imagine this. You are lying in a hospital bed in a country you do not live in. You are bleeding, and the doctors will not begin treatment until you prove that you have insurance. And you cannot find it. That story was told to me on this podcast by one of my guests, not as theater, but as the reason this conversation matters. Welcome to Scouting for Growth. I'm Sabine van der Linden, and this is where we ask the founders rebuilding insurance how they actually do it. With me, Marc Lampe, co-founder of Miss Moneypenny Technologies, the team behind Wallet Studio, 22 insurers live on the platform, an $8 million seed round last April, and a thesis: the era of the app as we have known it is over. And Ernesto Suarez, founder and CEO of Gigasure, a digital native travel MGA, 25 years in the insurance industry, one exit back again, in his words, because the first time he did not finish what he started. In the next 40 minutes to 60 minutes, the partnership that produced 35,000 wallet cards in under 4 months, what they built, what nearly broke, and where this goes when AI agents start doing the building. Grab a coffee. This one, I think, will move you. How are you, Marc? How are you, Ernesto? So good to see you today on the Scouting for Growth podcast. Welcome, Marc.
Thank you very much.
You just had a little bit of a trip across London. Welcome.
Yes. I saw the different face of London this morning with a strike and a 2 hours ride into
right.
the city. So yeah, interesting.
And Ernesto, so pleased to see you again. I understand you said we met in 2012. Gosh, that is a long time ago.
It is a very long time ago, when and during my first venture. So totally different, I think, parts of our career.
Absolutely.
But happy to be reunited with you again through this fabulous gentleman.
Absolutely. So welcome, and let's dive into, well, a bit of founder story, some background. Ernesto, 25 years in insurance. That is not small. So what got you into the industry? And tell us what got you to be here today to talk about a new venture.
So firstly, since the day I received the invite to do this, I've been very excited. So thank you for having me. I've been in insurance for 25 years. As you said, I've done my time in the corporate world. I've launched my first business, which was also an MGA focused on building a niche product, which back then maybe unknown to people, but car hire excess insurance, a consumer champion story type product. And now doing my second venture, Gigasure, which is what I know we're going to talk about today. Very excited about that. Again, I feel like it's a one-way journey of continuing to build a business that maybe in my first business I didn't finish doing. So Gigasure is a managing general agent, an MGA focused on travel insurance, and we distribute our product direct to consumers through our website and app. The difference for Gigasure that we're building is that we've made the app the hero of our business. It's where we want to provide the self-service features and the engagement features of our product to our customer base. So we're trying to draw our audience, our target audience, through obviously finding our product in traditional channels and price comparison websites, and of course direct channels. But the main goal we're after is to try to start changing consumer behavior and moving it into a mobile device space. So in insurance, that to me is of great interest.
Yeah. Well, when we think about travel, right, and we see a lot around product design right now in the industry, travel sits between anxiety and ambition. So what got you to try to reinvent how travel insurance is being, positioned to the customer, and how you build a really good product?
I think first it's my personal experience in being in the travel probably ecosystem for a while. Car hire access is a component of travel in a way. It's when you're hiring a car. So I travel myself a lot and experience some of the pain points as travelers we go through, whether it's by car on Uber this morning or whether it's on an airline or even when you get to your hotel. So for me, travel has been part of my life. And I think this is the what gives me the most pleasure about doing a business now focused on travel insurance. I also am a consumer and digital native, so I like trying new things on my mobile. I've become somewhat accustomed to buying and I guess procuring services on my mobile. So I wanted to be there. I wanted to be building something in the mobile space. So for me, that's been the attraction of building Gigasure. I have to say my children, I have 4 of them, all Gen Zers. I get a good insight in what they are doing with products and their mobile phone. And frankly, that's what's really motivating me to deliver some of the features in the product.
It's interesting because I have this great goddaughter of mine called Emilia. And when I see her, the first thing she does, she takes my mobile device and she actually teach me all this stuff I didn't realize I could do with mobile. So Ernesto, when you look at insurance, what does insurance get wrong with their customer today, which drives you mad?
I think from experience in the industry, looking at it evolve through some of the major distribution channels I've participated in, the thing that really gets me, I wouldn't say mad, but just puzzled is the inability of our own industry, the insurance value chain, still looking to hand off the customer. And that to me creates a lag in how people can experience insurance. We all know the moment of truth, right? In an insurance product, it's when you make a claim. And this is the area where I see the most handoff going on, where customers get passed on to the next provider. And a lot of our insurance businesses don't tend to take that much responsibility for their customer when it gets to that point. So for me, that is the one thing I would love to change as we evolve and grow the travel business.
Marc, it's time to go into your story, right? You started your first business at 17 and then exited at 21, then decided to go into the banking sector, Deutsche Bank,
Yes.
and then co-founded Miss Moneypenny Technology. So what is the line, right? What is the journey who got you there?
Yeah. So first of all, yes, I founded the first company at the age of 17. I still was going to school at that time, certainly. So my parents really didn't like it, but I did it, and it was already a company that was very much customer value driven. So we were the first company in Germany that offered water cooler services. There was no one had seen that in Germany at that time. And we already made a lot of very big and large enterprise clients such as Deutsche Bank, Deutsche Telekom or DHL. And after exiting this venture, I wanted to see the other side. So how does it work actually from the enterprise? And I was very lucky to receive an offer to work in Luxembourg at Deutsche Bank. And then I saw, because Deutsche Bank in Luxembourg is like an offshore island where you can see like everything, every department on every floor. So you have really a small banking industry there. And then I saw the complexity of from the enterprise side. And still I was driven by how can we improve the experience from the customer side, even for such a complex product as banking or banking services. And I founded several other corporates before Miss Moneypenny, and all of them have been very much focused on giving more value to the end consumer, to the customer. And actually, I made all of them revenue positive with already a decent amount of revenue. But what I've never seen before is like the strength and leverage we see in what we do with Miss Moneypenny Technologies from the customer perspective. Number-driven, excitement, retention, engagement, openness. This really is probably the line that connects all the dots, is really to have a focus on the an experience as frictionless as possible from the customer perspective.
So looking back, what did those early ventures, your experience with, corporate side, teach you about, how we should be businesses, how all this stuff works?
Yeah. I think what really is not what no one teaches you in any books or at university is that you really have to orchestrate a lot of parts, like timing, finding the right person, finding the right approach within that timing, and putting that all together. If you consider all of these moving parts, because people come into a company, people leave, there's a small window open where you can just step in, to have the patience and the overview of all these things, then you have really the opportunity to bring business from a theory, from an idea to life. And I think that actually was reflected then in numbers or in revenues then.
Yeah, congratulations. And it's important to note that you've been building wallets technology, right, for 10 years, even before Wallet Studio came about. So tell us about that little journey of yours, what got you to stay and still continue building.
Yeah.
When most founders would have said, I'm done, I would have moved on.
So first, before we specialized on the insurance space and built Wallet Studio, we already made a decent amount of money or had revenues, but it was like not in the SaaS space. So we were more or less agnostic, did a lot of R&D, tested around. What we always saw from the beginning was that there was a lot of excitement from every party involved, like from the enterprise through all industries and to the customer. But the use cases were very, very different, and we had to learn, okay, what works better and what works not so good. So I think if you want to bring something to substantial and long-lasting success, you really have to test and fail and see, okay, what works and what works not on different levels. So not only on the conceptual side, but also on a technical side, on a legal side, on the HR side, on both parties. So I think we always saw that we are onto something, but it was not like aggressively scaling, and that we had to refine over the years and to say, okay, now we have to commit to something, to a niche or to something specific. There was the insurance space, and where we could bring all the knowledge and experience we had condensed into one industry.
So I want to ask a question to the both of you. Customer experience. In insurance, we love talking about customer experience, but often we see that the industry is not really always able to drive the right customer experiences. So where does the industry actually lies to itself? And I would love to hear where you agree and where you differ. So I'll start with you, Ernesto. What's your view?
Okay. Well, I think very quickly in respect of customer experience, I feel where the industry or at least in the retail insurance space where we operate in, very quickly, and I'm going to follow on this theme about handing off the customer down the value chain. I think still at the moment, we're all very good at selling, but it's the post-sale service element that I feel is a big lie. A lot of people say they do things, but in fact, what they're doing is providing a brochureware front, leading you down the same path, always down to make a claim, which is using a telephone or an email and waiting a long time to hear back from the claim service provider if it's different from the insurance company, which in many cases in the insurance industry is. So I think where I'd like to promote the change, where I want to work hard, is to change that customer experience while using the technology that we're collaborating, putting together, so that engagement factor is there, the stickiness is there, the fluidity. So for me, that's the industry's still caught into this thing. They think they give a good customer experience, but they really don't.
What about you, Marc?
I would say customer experience is not only about the right tool or building the right functionality, which actually is in good progress. I see a lot of cool things, not only AI related. There are pretty good functionality-wise apps outside. But I think there's bigger layer in that is how does that apply, or how does that feels like from a relationship with the customer, right? So you were talking about claims, but there are other sensitive solutions such as, I don't know, renewal of the contract or any kind of preventive information the insurer wants to send or has already. It's like, how can I send this to my customer? And I think the answer to that is the trust-based ongoing relationship between the insurer and his individual customer. And there's a huge gap, still a huge gap that has to be closed. So the solution is not to build the perfect AI-driven functionality, but to deliver that actually to the customer, not only at that specific time, but like in general.
Yeah.
So I think what is still missing is a holistic view over the whole customer lifetime cycle that says, okay, how can we be actually a trust-based and transparent partner at your side in every situation?
Yeah. We often speak about moment of truth, right? And often our industry, Mark, have this belief that when they are building solution and providing functionality, that what they are doing is genuinely engaging and so important. But actually, it's absolutely invisible from the customer viewpoint. How do you do that from a platform viewpoint? How do you make sure that what you deliver to the customer is what the customer wants?
Yeah. So thanks. That is a good question. So we always get the question, okay, if you have that moment of truth, mostly claims related, how does the customer know what to do at that specific time when he's under stress and things are going sideways? And that is, again, coming back to my answer I just gave, is to have an ongoing, decent, not like every day, but ongoing stream of information and communication. Like, look, if something happens in the near future or at all, then don't forget we are there. This is where you find your information in our solution in a wallet card, and we got you. So, and we see that reflected, that actually in this very moment of, for example, an accident or a flight delay, the customer remembers, okay, there is an ecosystem or solutions out there. My insurance takes care of that. And I actually do know what to do, where to look it up, where to go then. And that makes actually, I think, the big difference in like maybe not to think so much in reaction, but more in proactiveness.
Mm-hmm.
Like, look, we are here. Everything is good. You decided to buy insurance. You spent money for that. So we are here, and we see that absolutely reflected in numbers and the openness of the customer, that he's absolutely willing to use all these things, but he just has to be frictionless, and he has to know how and where.
Yeah. Friction is important, right? Because we are trying to always try to remove that friction. Partly when you start thinking about the digital native, they actually expect to do everything from their mobile. Ernesto.
Well, on following on Marc's point and this digital native concept, I think you really have to know whom your customer is, because if you want them to use the tools you're giving them, the engagement, the everything we want to build that relationship, the trust. If you're building a proposition for your target audience and you know exactly what makes them tick, I think that's where you're most successful in delivering what you expect to happen. And I can give you an example, and going, your business, Marc, where we're talking about a very practical solution of the digital wallet card. This is what people already know how to use in most cases for transport, for loyalty cards, the QR codes. These are common things people are used to. But I can tell you right now, we did a census-wide survey recently, 2,000 people, and we asked them a question: what is your biggest problem when it comes to making a claim? And overwhelmingly 88% said they have trouble finding their documents. So right there and then, you realize that actually something so simple I can deliver with something that is sitting on their phone, something they use every day in their pocket, and I can give it to them with a couple of taps. To me, that's how you approach some of the pain points we see in our audience and when you're building a product, and you go out and look and seek that technology to give it to them as simple as possible. And that's exactly the mind where my mind was when I came across your business in, several months ago when we were talking about the practicality of things. And it just opened my eyes to a whole new dimension of how we can deliver our proposition. That's what got me so interested in digital wallet.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because still today, I get my insurance from very well-known insurers here in the London market. I get them through my email. So I get, many pieces of PDFs, and then I have to save them into Dropbox so that I can find them every single year. So it's interesting, right? For finding your document. For me, I've never needed to actually find that documentation, except, to demonstrate to the taxpayer that I actually have insurance, or when I actually sign a contract that I have insurance. And it should be simpler to find this documentation. So very true. So Ernesto, you are building an MGA, right? And so from the MGA side, I would like to understand what was the assumption you had to unlearn as you were building the business to make sure that you did it right at Gigasure.
Okay. Unlearn is a very interesting word, because I think the single approach you have when building an MGA is, I want to simplify the value chain. I want to make it as short as possible between the manufacturer, the insurance company, and the customer. And what layers am I going to put in to, I guess, deliver that in the most simplest fashion? And I guess the unlearning is the bits of the industry you end up relying on, where in our experience, we learn both sides of the coin, and that becomes your competitive advantage. So unlearning how to do an MGA is knowing exactly the full stretch of that value chain you're going to deliver, but try to start taking away those pieces that you see as irrelevant and substituting that with the relevant pieces. And I found most of the relevant pieces happen to be technology. Not to automate or make us invisible, but to make everything work simple. And that gives me kind of like the impetus to say Gigasure is an insurtech, but it's collaborating with partners like Miss Moneypenny to deliver that elevated proposition. And that's what we're after.
So let's go into the partnership, what you both are trying to build. And I think you just made a comment, which I would like to elevate, because as I mentioned to you earlier, we are going through that frontier transformation where we are going to have access to intelligence on tap, human agent collaborating with one another, and also each one of us becoming agent bosses, which when you look at what that means, right, we need to have the right governance and ethics, but we cannot do it alone. We need to actually identify the right partners alongside being able to integrate the right capability and making sure that we're not scared of the technology, that we actually have the right leadership, the flexibility and adaptability to do that. When you look at when you met Marc Ernesto, I believe it was at InsurTech Insight, and you had this haha moment, and you said, oh my God, this is a great platform or a great conversation I've had with Marc, and I need to know more about that. Tell us, when was that moment and what got you to start having that conversation together?
Well, I think like everyone in those large conferences, you walk around wanting to know who's got a stand and, what they do. And immediately, obviously, I had heard of Miss Moneypenny and some of the previous work, case studies they had done, and I went there with a purpose. I wanted to really find out how we can get this. Like, I went straight into Marc. I said, look, I'm building a digital first MGA, travel insurance. Maybe in the UK, I can be an experiment for you. But in theory, I was really looking for Marc to tell me how easy it was to implement. And as I started learning the features of the platform, my eyes just kept getting wider, because I could already see the application very quickly. It didn't take me a long time. Marc, I think, was smiling when he met me, because he's like, oh, this guy gets it, But at the same time, I was like really in awe that the platform was doing what it was doing. Because it's more than just a digital card, by the way.
Yeah.
And I know Marc knows that, but
Absolutely.
I think that was my surprise.
I think we need to actually go back to really understanding how humans right now use wallet technology. You know, I travel a lot, right? I'm a business traveler, and so get my boarding pass into my wallet. I showed you this morning, many of my reward cards into my wallet as well. So hotels where I go regularly, I have my membership card there so that I can get my points and I can have free nights. So what was so special for you when you thought about travel, right? We didn't do it for travel, really, in insurance.
No, I did it really looking to make the customer experience better. Like I wanted to basically give another window for our customers to access information quickly. And that's what I saw when I saw what you could do with the front and the back of the card. You were giving customers key information, key contact details at the top of a button. And that to me was like, why isn't everybody doing this? And for me now, looking at what we've done with the card, it's like a hygiene factor for a digital proposition like Gigasure's. You know, I like having something that I can look at that is in the shape of a card. It gives me a weird feeling, to be honest. Insurance has never been tangible. And I feel like this is a little piece that we can give customers for what they've purchased. I know it sounds crazy, but it is something that just has a very practical but yet big effect.
Yeah, I agree. And I want you to respond to that, Marc. But think about me as a traveler. I mean, I will go in Expedia, I will buy my trip, hotel, and potentially maybe my airfare if I cannot find it on my preferred airlines. And then I have an insurer asking me to buy that insurance. And sometimes I say, you know what, I probably have it on Amex, or should I buy it now? But I have nothing else but that piece of paper which comes into my inbox, which I forget, right? Said, okay, I'm covered. But then when something happens in the airport, or maybe I don't get my luggage, I have to scroll through my emails to actually do anything. And usually when you arrive, you don't want to do that. Marc?
Yeah, I mean, so specifically in travel, I would say this is totally makes sense because the space is already used originally for boarding tickets. So just the idea in a tangible or visible dimension to say, look, this is your boarding pass or your travel ticket for your train, works in trains as well, and this is the insurance accordingly. Totally makes sense. And this is interestingly why we, for example, in the distribution process, try to do the same thing, what leads to this very high conversion rates. Like, look, this is your boarding ticket and this is your travel insurance product accordingly. So just pull that into your wallet space and then you're just covered. And actually these things can communicate with themselves, because if there's a flight delay or anything, or lost luggage or whatever, it can be reflected in the policy card. So everything becomes more tangible and visible. And that can be applied then to, I think, any other insurance product. But I would say specifically in travel, plus what we didn't mention yet was payment. I mean, this is the same space, right? So you not only board your plane, but you buy also your coffee at the restaurant, at the airport maybe, and you then already have opened this space 3 times. So it's a huge opportunity for the insurer to be in a space which is naturally open from a customer experience perspective.
Want to go back to the Giga card, and it's called the Giga card, Ernesto. So what was the first version of the Giga card, and how far have you been now? Because you mentioned that you were so marveled by all the stuff you could actually do for your customer with all the capabilities we sit behind it.
Well, as you know, Gigasure is backed by an app. So we have lots of stats and information around the engagement with our app. And, everyone knows you're not going to get significantly high engagement. You need to kind of educate your customer base through that, and eventually you get there. But the impact the Giga card has had is completely amazing, because one, we launched it only less than 4 months ago. And we launched it on the basis that every customer that bought our policy would get the opportunity to download their Giga card. And we quickly, in 4 months, over 50% of our customers, I would say approaching 60%, are not only just tapping the button, but they're actually adding it to their wallet card.
Mm-hmm.
So that is a huge engagement percentage. To me, I'm very excited because, like I said, the back of the card is like a white canvas and you can make it anything you want. Marc was just talking about things that, it can do, but at the same time, it's what you can make it do,
Yes.
and there are some features that I'd love to talk about some more, but there are some features on his platform, on Miss Moneypenny's platform, that allow us to grow that window, if you know what I mean. So just be as simple as providing contact information, but also provide potentially an opportunity for people to give feedback to your business very quickly, start a claim, give us some flight information that allows us to initiate the other features of the Gigasure product when you travel. As you know, our product has flight delay and baggage delay. These are parametric insurance products that basically are trigger-based on an event. So if your flight's delayed over a certain amount of time, we send you money or get a free VIP lounge pass, no questions asked. If your baggage doesn't show up, input a PIR number from the airline and you get your money straight into your bank account. So these are now starting to build on what Gigasure was created for, which is, these digital natives looking for instant gratification in elements that before just took a while to come to free. You had to submit a claim form, you had to wait for your payment. This is now happening instantly. And again, the Giga card is a component of that. It's in your phone, in your wallet, tap away, and there are some features there that you can get access to. So I'm trying to squeeze the most as I can from the Giga card because of its uptake. Over close to 60% is quite amazing.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
And you mentioned that generation which wants instant gratification, right? I call it the Instagram generation. We put the likes and then we are expecting the comment. Now we've been trained for that instant gratification. So when you think about that, Marc, and from a Wallet Studio viewpoint, what does a partner like Gigasure unlock that a traditional insurer may not be able to do for you now?
So we just talked about a lot of the effects when you're live, right? Metrics, numbers, increasing customer satisfaction, whatever, you name it. But to get there, you have to go live.
Yeah.
And the way to that can be very, very long and complex. And that is very interesting because, we know our numbers and we always try to show them as early as possible to say, look, this is what's going to happen almost in every case. And actually, you have in most of the companies, you find people who are pretty excited about this and say, okay, look, we really have to do that. And then it's a challenge to get to this goal to, let's say, go live, right? So you need someone who is the economical buyer, who has the money, someone who authorizes all the formal things, legal, IT tech, security, and so on. This costs a lot of time the bigger the company is because it's in departments, in people sitting sometimes in different corners of the world, and this really costs time. And in comparison with a company with Gigasure and Ernesto, you have more or less everything in one person. So it's just like we were just laughing about. Okay, look, our the decision and purchasing process was like literally 3 email threads. Like, okay, look, we are both pretty excited. Let's talk about the different topics, but let's aim for speed and going live to prove what our theory is, because then we can start to optimize, right? But it's getting started when you're live, and the time or the stage before is to prepare on that. But unfortunately, you lose a lot of time, and that every day you lose there is the day you lose with having a better experience for your customer.
Yep.
And that was what was pretty exciting, because it was so straight away like, okay, we know what we want to do. We have to do these things. And we, from our tech and software solution provider, we know what to do on all the different levels, tech, concept, legal, commercials. But you have to talk to so many people in so many departments. And as less people as you have to talk to with all these topics, the more speed you gain.
Yeah. I mean, You've worked with great corporates. I mean, Zurich, Ergo, we respect them tremendously. And they are what I call early adopters in our industry. But you're working with over 20 insurers, or at least in Europe. I don't think I've counted everyone across the globe. But the key thing here is it takes longer to work with a corporate than it was to work with Ernesto and Gigasure. So can you share a bit more, how long does it take to actually work with an MGA and, the type of value you can actually deliver for this type of organizations?
Yeah. I think what excited me was that Ernesto and I could oversee and be in charge of the whole collaboration on the one hand. On the other, we could initiate all the necessary things in parallel, right? And that is what not so often happens in larger companies, because they we work from step to the next step. So to ask, okay, should we just try to get started working on the integration, for example? A normal carrier wouldn't do that before an official purchase order. For compliance reasons. But here we just could okay, we want to do this. Eventually we will end in a collaboration. So why are we not doing these things in parallel? This is Mario from our side. This is Simon from the other side. Let's bring them together and say, okay, we want to do this. So find a solution. And that was, I would say, pretty much owned by us too. And that really was exciting because it was really very straightforward.
Yeah, I mean, we still think about, moving away from waterfall to doing a bit more sprint-like implementation. But in big corporation, it can be still hard. As you said, there's governance, there is regulation, there is compliance, all this stuff that needs to take place. So what was for you the most exciting part working with Ernesto to actually get this offering up to market really quickly? What were the things which was for you good learning lessons, right? The common things we may actually also see from working with big corporations, but also what are the areas you would actually recommend any companies trying to implement at speed to consider, the team, all the different criteria required to have a successful project today?
I think what excited me the most was that actually from the very beginning, if you have that trust-based commitment that we actually want to do this and just have to pull through or just find ways and solutions to get to the collaboration and go live, really brings you into a mood that, okay, we're trying to do as much and as fast as possible on every level, enable everyone, because there's no question if you do that, but just how fast you can do that. So the trust was there from the beginning. What does not say that there's no trust in the collaboration with big enterprises, but there are some natural hurdles that limit yourself. Okay, the pipeline is already very full with other requests. We just don't have the capacity for this year. So we're actually willing to do that. But next free slot is January 2007. So, and I know that there are on every level these limitations from the resources even. And here I knew that we just had to go through the different topics, and then we could go live.
Mm-hmm. So Ernesto, I think it was 35,000 digital wallet cards created in under 3 months. That is incredible. What did that number tell you? Because we talked about some of the KPIs, but does that number really tell us around success, about customer, about digitization?
Well, for us, that number immediately told us that our proposition was talking to the right customer. The uptake for sure was giving us a signal that, look, our customer easily wants this.
Yeah.
In addition to the app, they want this in their wallet. It was kind of a big moment for us, to be honest, because we had obviously spent a lot of time listening to Marc tell us how good his product was. But at the same time, I always believed it. Marc was talking about the trust you get early on, and I think I agree with him on that. But I also think, and even in my experience, probably yours as well, that the biggest factor comes to finding someone in the other side that becomes your champion and can drive things through. And I learned a lot of that through working in big corporates as well. You just need to find that one person that can really take you through the walls of the corporate world in these bigger companies. And you immediately start to change the perception of things very quickly about it. So internal project champions are very necessary when you're trying to introduce a transformation like what a digital wallet card. For as simple as it sounds, it's very transformational to the customer experience, I think. But for us, you mentioned 35,000. I can give you a new number. We're over the 50,000 mark for sure. And it's just a proof that even the simple things work.
I want to quote a great friend of mine, Nigel Walsh at ServiceNow. You always talk about how do we make insurance lovable? And I know you have a 5-star rating and that the customer give you 5-star. I mean, Trustpilot. I mean, this is incredible. What make them come back again and again?
Well, first of all, I think you need to make the product becomes somewhat glued to the tools you provide the customer, and those have to kind of work together. There is a great sense in pride. What we deliver to the customers, what we deliver to the market as a proposition is both an insurance product and a service layer. And that service layer, you can add on to the side or on top of that, the relationship layer you were talking about earlier, Mark. But for us, creating that service layer and trying to mitigate as much as possible things that can go wrong, however simple you want to make it, is really the ingredient to success. Because you don't want to deliver something that doesn't work. You want to strive to deliver something that works. And that comes from really using the feedback and adapting that back into your business quickly. Every single 1-star Trustpilot review we get, we circle around it and we try to solve whether that's something we need to change in our product itself, the app, or is it something in the service chain that is faulty, like even claim service, right? Most of the times we live on that double-edged sword in our businesses. We can deliver a great product to the market when you purchase it, but at the same time, there are always going to be those few customers that don't have a great claims experience because it starts with a declinature or it starts with a long delay in communication. There are lots of facets to that. But we try to look at products like the digital wallet card as a way to, can we actually improve that poor experience and make it better somehow? Yeah. So we're just always trying to eat away at the friction.
Another thing that comes to mind right now is you also sell on a price comparison website like Money Supermarket, right? And that is very commoditized. But once a client buy, they become trustworthy, engaged customer. How do you actually facilitate that transition?
Well, first of all, we sell on price comparison websites, but they're all channeled in through to use the same app as a direct customer would come through another channel. So we don't treat them differently. And I think that's the bit where we feel is the success of our business. We are, educating customers how to use the tools to better inform themselves of the product they've purchased, but also when they want to make changes. We have some innovations in our app that differentiate us from the rest of the market. And I think as people see that it's there, they realize that actually this is a great way to manage my insurance product because you can actually do everything on a travel insurance product on our app. You can update your health record. I think we're the only ones that do that. We have parametric baggage delay, flight delay on the app for you to engage with. I don't think anybody else does that either. So there are a lot of market firsts that are there waiting for you once you come in from a price comparison website. And even the Gigacard, I think we are one of the few in the market that actually even give you a digital wallet card to look at your policy information. And we are using the features that the platform allows us to use. So, getting notifications, having, your policy number turn a different color or put a little badge on your card when you're close to renewal. The GPS location, when you're near one of the top 10 UK airports, you get a welcome message from us. And that's all because of the platform we're using with the Gigacard. So there's a lot of triggers in there that are continually Mark said it before, the conversation continues. And I think that's new. I've never had products that do that for me in insurance, for example. So yeah, we're very excited in that regard. But to me, how we treat customers wherever they buy, they're getting the same service.
Well, we talked when we met in January, and we are beyond January. But remember, Mark, when we were at ITC London, claims was the next frontier. A lot of players in the market were actually looking at claims as their differentiator. And when we think about claims, it's very much the moment of truth, Ernesto, for any customer. So what does a wallet native claims experience look like? And why does it matter today even more?
Well, we currently live in the world where many propositions in the market are driving you through what we call a first notification of loss through filling out claim forms online. And then you get your confirmation that you've submitted your claim and someone will be in touch, whether it's in the form of an email, a phone call. But in travel, you have two distinct claim situations. You have the paper-based claim, which is pretty much a process that shouldn't take too long. And then there's the medical emergency, more complex claim that does require a human interaction because you could be in a remote part of the world or it's a life-threatening situation. So quite stressful. And I think when we look at the digital wallet card, I still feel that relies a lot on kind of falls in line with the fast throughput claim area. So you're talking about still a large percentage of the claims, but the digital wallet card to me is a great opportunity to enhance that, experience where people don't even have to worry about where they're going to get their claim paid. It'll just come right back to them in that wallet card, or enabling that wallet card to do more things, maybe purchase acquisition or, things that come with the benefits of issuing an electronic card. It could come in the form of loyalty cards. It can come in the form of a payment to your bank account. But for us, that is what we're looking to do. I mean, I talked about the Giga card being phase one. That's phase one.
Yeah.
It is kind of approaching the more simple, relevant issues that customers are having with their claims at the time of a claim. But when we get to talk about submitting a claim form through the wallet, I mean, that could be the next frontier. Then the next one is the payment. It all goes in phases. You can't have everything day one, unless Mark tells me it's all available. But I think we are still very primed to innovate in this digital wallet space.
Mark, I mean, you guys have worked really hard to make, a wallet native platform really simple, right? Super simple, but there's so much complexity behind it. We've talked about it so many times, and we've heard so many companies thinking they can actually copy it, but you can't. 10 years of learning, people. What does it actually take to build this super well?
Yeah, I mean, this is a little bit what Ernesto just said. So a lot of the things you just said are already there, like claims related or even payment. But we kind of educate the customer from one step to the next, and he's absolutely open to use all these things. But what is, I think, very important from the beginning is that for the customer, from the customer perspective, it always has to be a seamless and frictionless experience. Yeah. So that is the condition we have to fulfill that. And so we have to orchestrate and process a lot of operations in the back. So sometimes we say we try to what Guidewire is for the back end. We try to be in the customer facing role, right? So as Ernesto just said, there are so many operations going on in different levels, not only claims related, also preventive content or up cross or renewing wise, and to orchestrate that again on the different levels, not only technically, but also from the concept. And then from a legal side, for example, if you issue payment cards, you have to take care of all money laundering, KYCing issues to actually issue a very card in that very moment at the airport to pay for something specific and not something else, right? And that is to do that in that, let's say in general, highly regulated area without losing the customer experience and having like almost no friction. That's, I think, is the challenge. Yeah, we worked on that like for several years to guarantee that. And I think what's interesting is if you, the two main solutions we offer or we realize is travel and motor insurance. But if you compare just this one specific product, for example, motor insurance, with between all the different carriers, then there are slight differences. Like motor insurance is like motor insurance is not like motor insurance is like motor is not like motor insurance. So you have to understand, and even from a scaling perspective, and again from the customer perspective, that all to consider all these things because there are third parties involved, there are different regulations in different markets. To take all these things into consideration is to work in the back is the actual challenge, because the customer should only have the experience and not struggle with, okay, this doesn't work or the link or the information is wrong.
I mean, when you describe, the Wallet Studio, it's a two-way communication, right? It's removing that static engagement with the customer. And what we've learned over the period as well is that to actually enable the customer to get access to a variety of capability and functionality. So we talked about location-based notification at airports, parametric triggers when we think about Gigasure, family QR codes sharing as well. Can you give us, some tangible example around the type of things you see, either incumbent players or MGA really getting advantage from, maybe using Gigasure lens from your point of view?
So first, I think specifically if it's parametric products, this works pretty well because you have ongoing events that you can use as fundament to have a living insurance product in the wallet card perceived in that way from the customer perspective. And I think this opens a huge opportunity in not only from the parametric space, but also all kinds of embedded or situation-based solutions. So I think that opens the room for maybe just sometimes small solutions or short period insurance products and to enhance the whole world of any other services.
Yeah. I hear there's some level of mobility happening, right? Location and I can feel we are talking about travel. We are talking about motor. We are talking about, people being on the move, being on the go and needing information. So something to think about that as well. So question for both of you here, Ernesto and Marc. I'm going to start with Ernesto. What does this partnership signal about the future of the MGA market, but also InsurTech partnership, right? How does ecosystem partnership comes together? We talk about frontier. We talk about the future being about not doing it alone. What does that mean for you, starting with you, Ernesto?
I think one of the experiences we've had, and I've certainly had in building Gigasure, is the collaboration that we've been able to start with other enablers in the InsurTech ecosphere. In the UK, as we know, in the early days, this was highly focused on trying to disrupt insurers or trying to build the full stack distribution value chain. And that was quite expensive. But I think the market has evolved. The capital has become more aware of the potential now that exists in not only the enablers that are providing all these different solutions, but the MGAs themselves looking into InsurTechs to enhance their proposition. And that's exactly what I've actually done with the business. I've looked at not just Marc's business, Miss Moneypenny, but leaned on other InsurTechs to build what the travel insurance proposition is today for Gigasure. And that, I think, is the symbol of what's coming. Do we see now a hybrid model evolving from this, where there is the MGA InsurTech even going up the value chain, like going into distribution? And that is what excites me the most, because, and again, I think Marc and I we've been so long in our respective industries. We can't forget the networks we're building through this process. the networks are so important to access what you need in your product. Building a venture isn't easy, particularly in insurance. If you're not prepared, if you don't have that network ready to go, it could be quite a long journey to get to a sustainable position. And in insurance, that's so important. Even companies like the tech companies building for insurers, building with insurers. Marc was describing a very long process that you end up in it with some of the larger businesses. You need a lot of capital to go the distance with that model. And it brings us to like, where does this converge with B2B? We all heard the whole growth story on embedded insurance. If you take what's happening in embedded insurance, if you take what's happening with enablers and insurtech, if you think about what's happening in the MGA market, there are articles out there about the rise of the MGA. Well, the rise of the MGA isn't happening by itself. It's being propelled by the technology that these enablers are extending now to the wider market. So this just creates a very exciting moment to be in insurance. I think we'll see a very different result when people talk about insurtechs as a sector. It's a booming sector now. I think anyone selling insurance digitally should look at the insurtech sector to be more active in it because it will enhance your proposition. Insurers, I think, will continue to be doing what they do best, and that is they manage data, they manage risk, they underwrite capital, and some of them will say we specialize in claims. But I think time will tell whether actually the claim will move into the insurtech space because there are so many tools there ready to enhance the claim experience. Very exciting time to be.
Yeah, I think I want to echo what you are saying. So if we think about insurtech before 2018, it was all about disruption. And I think between 2018 to 2023, we realized actually it's about collaboration. Now, from 2023 to now, it's around integration, being embedded into the fabric of the products and services being designed for the customer. And when we think about insurance, traditional insurance, about risk management, risk transfer. Now, distribution, product design is very, very, very important, and processing to make sure we have that moment of truth. 100 billion has been put into insurtech for the past, I would say, I've been in there for 10 years. So at least for the past 10 years, last year it was around 5 billion. Some people say there are 6,000 insurtechs. I would say my database shows 11,000. But the key thing here is, we have suffered. The best year was in 2021. Last year, 5 billion is not bad. We are going back up from an investment viewpoint, but there's so much more that can be done. So Marc, partnership, when you think about Gigasure, MGAs, and what that means for insurtech. What does that mean for you?
Yeah, so I think it starts with a classic win-win situation, and that is based on we can leverage each other.
Yeah.
So the question, I think, never was at some time if Ernesto thinks building this solution by himself, right? Or anything else. It's just like there was one part that totally makes sense, adds up in the whole customer experience or from a product view. And so he decides to integrate that one part of a solution into his holistic view. And then to move on. So I think in comparison to how much you think and evaluate if you're doing it or not, do we build that themselves or which one is the best solution there, he just took the decision and said, okay, makes sense from several perspectives and let's just do this. So because as soon as I have integrated this in my service or portfolio or in my product, I leverage that to a long-lasting advantage. And then I can do the next thing, so from even within the partnership, like optimizing, giving feedback, okay, look, couldn't we optimize this or that part? Or even like take other players into that collaboration just to add things up and try to defend or even make your advantage larger from a customer experience based on speed and moving on. So I think these two players really can enable each other to have that idea of a very good customer relationship in reality and optimize it on a constant level and a regular basis.
So I'm going to ask you my last question to both of you. And it's about looking at the future, where this goes and what the industry must decide. So Marc, you have described the wallet as the customer layer of the agentic enterprise. We are all about agentic frontier transformation. So what does that truly mean?
Yep.
And why does it matter just right now?
Let me try to answer that in the best way. So there is so much change and transformation going on with AI or even without AI. So, for example, things that you use on a daily basis, Spotify or whatever, I open that, I don't know, several times a day, and still I, on a regular basis, are confused because all of a sudden buttons are just removed or there are functions somewhere else, or someone tells me, why are you not using this or that? And I said, I didn't know that this exists. So there is a lot of exciting and amazing solutions, specifically AI-driven. But the question is, how do I find it with as low friction as possible? So yesterday, maybe there was a chatbot, and maybe tomorrow it's an agent. So probably the day after tomorrow, it's something else. We don't know. So if I already have that part of confusion in a thing that I use on a regular basis, then how should I keep up with something like an insurance product, which I do not necessarily have to be involved on a daily basis, right? So to have a trustworthy layer that says, look, there's constant evolvement in your interest, in a service, in a customer experience perspective, and it will get better and better, but it probably will change. But no worries, you will find everything in order here with as low friction as possible. Then that will be reflected in customer satisfaction, I would say. So I think these things enable each other. So there are more and more really cool solutions out there. What we see number-wise is that the consumer wants to use them, right? So as long as he knows where to find it and how to use it, it instantly will lead to more customer satisfaction. But still, you have to lead the customer in the right direction. And that is how we think, from a perspective from all parties involved, this will lead to a better understanding and experience of an insurance product overall.
Yeah. And you, Ernesto, let's look into the future. I mean, we talked about parametrics. I mean, I think when we think about frontier, right, I'm going to repeat myself, intelligence on tap, humans, an agent or their app collaborating with one another, and each one of us being in control, right? When we start using the technology, which is wallet native, AI native, cloud native. So when you describe instant wallet payment card, for example, for small claims as the next frontier, for me, you are already becoming a frontier company. What does that future look like for Gigasure?
I think we need to probably look back and say, what is the platform we're building on going to be used for? For me, it's knowing what is the frontier and building towards that, because you're never going to, when you build for something, you'll eventually build it and it's moved on. So for me, it's getting the fundamentals right in the platform you start building, knowing who your customer is, developing that proposition for that customer so that you look kind of on a long-term view, you know that the customers are headed in a certain direction and you're going to meet them there. And that, to me, would be where we innovate. How you get there is probably by designing your platform to do the things that are relevant for that customer at that time. And for me, I just go back to, we built Gigasure for digital natives, but that's a wide spectrum. But to be honest, the real true target customer is the millennials. It's the Gen Zers that use this mobile interface, and that's all they know. That's where they want to use the products and services of today. So we want to be in that space, and we want to be that choice. So my 10-year goal is Gigasure is a household brand. Why? Because look at the neobanks. Revolut did it. And that's where I'm aiming for. I want to be the next, Revolut, but for insurance. And I want to continue adding features on that platform that I set out to build to be relevant with my customer. And I can always think back to, if I look at it from an insurance perspective, there are cohorts of customers, generations of customers coming through the market. And what we're saying is, we're looking at where the cohorts are, and already the millennials and Gen Z provide a very large portion of that customer base. What's it going to be like in 10 years? Well, actually, it's going to be millennials and Gen Zers and alphas coming through, but your proposition is already embedded in the millennials and Gen Zers. So we're building for the future, but we have to always measure that with, when you build a product that's ahead of its time.
Yeah.
A lot of businesses find themselves in trouble because there's no demand and they just run out of capital. We're trying to balance that as much as possible because we don't want to be one of those companies where we're too far ahead. And that's why I think what Marc's telling me is that I think I would probably be on the cautious side of AI implementation. We're not ignoring it, but we are definitely looking at where in the company is it best fit now. And do we deploy agents where? We're not just going to say we're AI based, we don't talk to customers. We just all very intuitive. And I think as we scale, we'll get to those problems. But, we do think it's all about being balanced. And that's sometimes how you probably are the innovator. And it's like what Apple do to us or Microsoft. They keep on releasing versions of their product little by little. So you just buy and buy and buy and buy the next version. Obviously, we're not an iPhone, but we are an insurance product. And I think insurance, in a way, customers will demand that evolution in the product as well as you go. So the stickiness is getting a platform first to work simply and fluidly and that customers like using, because they'll come back for that anytime in any industry. So we just got to partner with the right people that give that elevated or help us create that elevated customer experience. And to me, that's where I link up with Marc on that one element of our proposition. And that's where we get the best.
Thank you for that. And I would like to ask you, Ernesto, now, if people want to know more about Gigasure, where should they go? If they want to find out about you, where should they go?
Well, we're on the web direct. You can find everything about us on gigasure.com. We also have a native app on both the Apple Store and Google Play Store. You can download us anytime and really start to see the difference in how you can manage your insurance policy. Obviously, we started with travel, but as I said, as we prove the concept, which we are successfully doing now, what we'll want to do is add more products to that same platform.
That's super cool. And Marc, let's talk to the chief customer officer, the chief claims officer, maybe in big company, but also to the CEO of the MGA. What should they know about Miss Moneypenny and where can they find you?
So first of all, I think it's very easy to find us. Even you go on walletstudio.com or several ways via LinkedIn to find us. What I would recommend is I would like to encourage the CEO or CCO just to trust on the numbers and sheer amounts of references we have that always lead to these amazing numbers, because I know this is crazy, but I would say the end customer is not really the problem. He really likes it reflected in amazing metrics. So I know that there are so many initiatives that insurers want to start, but a lot of them take a long time because it's complicated to implement them. And we specifically tried to find solutions to start as lean and quick as possible, just to produce these metrics, which we see all the time, just to gain trust in that solution. Because always, again, same thing with Ernesto and Gigasure, the moment, more or less day one, we go live, we see, okay, oh my gosh, this is actually again happening. We say, okay, we told you. So I would encourage to the people just to say, okay, use the lean solutions startups in general try to offer to prove that there can be customer-facing solutions out there that lead instantly to success and build the, I think, vision of us all of a healthy relationship between insurer and its customer base.
Thank you to you both for joining me today. So there is the conversation. Marc Lampe and Ernesto Suarez, two builders, one wallet card, and a partnership that quietly proves what this industry has been talking about for 10 years and shipping for about 10 minutes. That customer experience in insurance can actually be good. If you are sitting there thinking, this is the pattern I've been waiting for, go and meet them where they live. Gigasure at gigasure.com or download the Gigasure app on Apple or Google Play. I have done it myself. 88% of customers say they cannot find their documents at the moment of claim. Ernesto and his team built the answer. Wallet Studio at walletstudio.com, the wallet which has been built by the team at Miss Moneypenny Technologies. If you are a chief customer officer, a chief claims officer, or a founder running an MGA and you are done watching wallet native engagement happen to someone else's portfolio, that is where the conversation starts. Marc and his team have done this 22 times already. Then, don't forget to share this episode with a colleague and continue the conversation while leaving a 5-star rating here for us. Your ratings and comments are so valuable. Further, if you enjoyed the discussion, make sure to subscribe to it and DM me on LinkedIn to let me know what you would like me to dive into next. Marc, Ernesto, thank you. This has been Scouting for Growth for you with me, Sabine van der Linden. Until next, keep scouting.